So today's sort of theme for like TDD Solidity, I wanted to talk about like writing tests inside of Remix, right? I'm not exactly a huge fan of Remix. I mean, it's definitely cool, right? You can write a little contract and deploy it really easily to like all different networks. But it's also kind of jank in some ways, right? And we'll talk about that. But like you can't show two files next to each other, which I really like to do in VS Code. You know, I've had where like I just added so many contracts in a workspace that it would like freeze up anytime I tried to do anything, you know? So probably using different workspaces is a good idea. I think I'm just going to add a new one here just so I can reference some of the other things here in case I need to. But I can call this just like a new contract. I'll just call this nothing contract. And the point of it, right, it doesn't really do anything. It's just a nothing contract. So I'm just going to copy this pragma. Right, pragma tells it what version of Solidity compiler to use. And for some reason, it's really specific about wanting this comment here about the license. Okay, so now automatically compiles for us here, which is pretty cool. And I can say contract nothing. And I'll just have like function boo. Okay. Can make it public so that we can call it, right? Or even just external. And I can have it maybe return a unit. Okay, we can just return a number here, maybe 2. Okay. And this is saying we can say this is pure, right? It's not reading anything or changing the internal contract here. So, okay. So I have this thing here, tests, Solidity unit testing. You probably won't see this unless you, sorry, this may be kind of distracting. You won't see this. I can even just full screen this. Although, oh man, I don't really work in full screen usually, so this is pretty weird. But anyway, there's an extension here. If you search for this Solidity unit testing and then activate it, then you'll get these little checkboxes here. And it will say test directory, right? So I haven't actually tried to change this before, but just for fun, let's call this other tests. And okay, I don't want to do that. I wanted to make a folder. Okay. So let me just run the tests to show you what it looks like. So they have 2 tests here, and we can see them passing over here. These are the tests that I have in them. And if I click on this, it's not totally clear this is a button, and this create button doesn't seem to be clickable. But and I don't see my other tests. I think if you say generate, nope, still don't find it. Other tests I have here. Maybe if I try to type it in. Okay, so I don't have any tests. It could be that I don't have any test files in there. That's why it's not even like picking it up. So let me just copy one of these for now. Paste it in here. Okay, so then this folder is really called that, right? Other dash tests, yeah. No like spaces or weird things in here. It doesn't look like it. Okay, oh, here it is, okay. But then generate maybe? And sorry, the Zoom thing is, why is that pop up? Failed to create test file, other tests /gg all test 2. So it's trying to create that test file for here. Okay, that's weird, but I'm just going to go back to tests. Also, by the way, this how to use button is pretty good. It opens up this testing. So, I mean, yeah, it's pretty obvious. Choose the folder, but didn't seem to work for me there. Generate. That's pretty cool. Actually, we can generate a test file, which is pretty handy. And then they tell you can do all these normal things before each, after each, before all. And you basically click the run button. You can stop it if you feel like stopping it, changing the compiler, right? Okay. And they didn't really show us what that button looked like, the generate button. Okay, so they're saying select the file you want to test and click generate. So if we select this nothing contract here, okay, then it comes up here. And then here we have our nothing contract selected. Okay, so now if I say generate, failed to create the test file. Okay, well, thanks for failing. Right, that's the thing where it's like, oh man, like this is such a good idea of a thing to have, but it's just like so half-assed, you know, that it just like says, oh, sorry, it didn't work. But it's okay, right? We can just create our own file. And the other interesting thing that I wanted to show you is that it doesn't seem to, right? Like this was a kind of a truffle way of, and actually this one you can see that it's not being picked up at all when we run our tests. This was, yeah, a different contract that I had here, but it's just trying to require this example. And yeah, this is this capital E example, right? I could rename this to capital E, but I don't think that really matters. Should probably rename this to just example. It seems like it wants that underscore test. And maybe just have this just so it has at least one it block in there. Return that it's true. Expected identifier. So this, yeah, this contract is a truffle thing. We might need to, well, this import remix test is kind of a solidity thing for you to use. And I think that's the problem here, is that it's not finding anything in contract because we're not in that like truffle context environment, and it doesn't have anything named this contract. It just wants you to make, well, it's expecting maybe the contract like solidity keyword and then space and then the name of your contract, right? So it's confused by that open paren. But this is a JavaScript file, so I would think maybe it's smart enough to figure that out, but it's not. Okay. And possibly, yeah, if anybody has, figures out how to use JavaScript in Remix, or is a, person working on it, then maybe we could add that as a feature, because I think it would be a good thing to have. All right, honestly, I don't ever write tests in Solidity. And it sucks because like when you search, like what do you even search for, testing Solidity in Solidity, right? Because it's like every example you find is going to be with like Mocha JavaScript, because that's what everyone's familiar with, and it's just easier, but it's fine, it's whatever you want to do. And okay, so basically this JavaScript file, I'm just going to delete it, sorry, but bye. And I am pretty sure we need to add that. I mean, let's just say contract T and see if this picks it up. Okay. I'm just going to copy this whole thing for now just to see. And I'll call this my nothing test. Okay. So not sure which one we should be using. I think that should be okay. Okay, so I renamed this, right, to capital E example. Okay, something about member set not found. Yeah, I don't think example has this function on its set. Oh, hello? Oh, my thing froze, okay. Yeah, it's not responding. Okay. Right, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes that will happen because, I don't know why actually. just start it again and hope that your code is still there. Okay, so we have this, right? Let me just take this out for now. Creating a new example. Hmm. Let's try this again. Right, it's like kind of frustrating. I'm just gonna come in here and maybe delete some of these other things. I think it's just like going through and checking a bunch of stuff. Right, maybe I'll delete these other tests. I don't know if that makes a difference. Okay, so this one actually was one that I think got from somewhere. I don't care about that one. And these all should probably be capital E now, right? Now when I save that, it starts the recompiling. Sometimes if it like gets stuck in a loop compiling or whatever, then it will just basically freeze up your browser, which sucks, but it's like you're coding in the browser. So what I guess I could maybe figure out that it's stuck in a loop and then just kind of break and throw you an error rather than like freezing up would probably be a better user experience, but okay. So this one, when I save it now, it doesn't freeze, that's good. And it's looking at the test folder here. If I say generate, it seems like generate just picks it up. Although it created a new file in here based on this file that's already in the test folder, which like to me doesn't make any sense, but okay. But like if it actually created a test file of these, then it would be cool. Maybe I just had that selected, so that's why I did that. But so TGG all test and my test underscore test. Okay. Yeah, notice that it didn't, like it failed on some of these things, but it didn't even run that nothing test. And I think that's because it really wants it to be called the underscore test, which is like, again, just another odd quirk of Remix, you know? And yeah, it even found it here already because it's underscore test. Okay. And we can see this my nothing test. So I think I'm just going to delete this. This is always a good thing, you know, to do whenever you find failing tests, just delete the file that they're in, you know? I don't think it will bother anyone. Yeah, just kidding, don't do that. But it's okay for us to do that now because I actually don't care about that. I think it was just generated. Okay. So let's like delete this. Okay, so what do we have here, right? Same pragma solidity. Notice we don't need that comment, which is interesting. But then importing remix tests, this gives us some things like this assert equals, and then we're just basically importing this contract that we want to test, right? So instead of example, let's pull in this nothing contract, okay? And then this is kind of like an instance of our contract. So maybe we'll say the type of it is that nothing contract, right? And then we'll name our variable this lowercase n nothing contract, right? And then we can use this later. So in the before each, just new up the thing, create a new instance of it for every test, okay? And this is kind of weird. I think the triple slash somehow adds this to like the documentation or prints out. Identifier not found or not unique. So what did I call this? Oh, I called it nothing. True. So it's gonna be the type nothing. And then new nothing. Yep. Okay. Okay. And I'm not sure why this returns Boolean. I think you might be able to do this to fail the test. Nope. I'm gonna uncheck this just so it only runs this test that we care about right now. Nothing test. Okay. And then let's just make, okay, so we have this function foo. So, right, this is kind of a weird thing that you sort of name the test in camel case in your function name. And then I guess because it's hard to read that, they're doing this, right, tests. Right. To me, I kind of prefer just a regular readable string inside of the it block, but it's fine. Okay, and then we're going to assert equal. And just in general, right? Honestly, I don't think you really even have to return. We could just say assert dot equal, and then the actual thing, and then what you expected it to be, right? And then the message, because we're doing this assert equal, we give the error message when it's not right. And foo didn't return too. Okay. Okay, so this we actually don't need. Right, so actual we didn't create yet, right? So actual, this function returns a uint, right? So make a new variable. And we'll just call our function, right? So this is actually the nothing contract, and then the function is foo, right? And we do get this syntax highlighting suggestion, IntelliSense, whatever you want to call it. Although foo returns to and get foo are not really here, so I'm not sure where they came from, but it's trying, you know. Okay. And then save, you can just do Control S to save, which is nice. That would be really annoying if it didn't support that. But there's other things, right? Like Control Alt up and down don't do anything. You know, that's to duplicate a line in VS Code. And just other things like that. I feel like the shortcuts of Remix can definitely be improved. Okay, so expected, right? And this one, it's kind of like the business logic of what do you actually want it to do, right? The way we coded it, we just want it to always return to, you know? So the expected thing should be 2, right? What's this complaining about now? Add explicit return with value to all non-reverting code paths or name the variable. Okay, so I think it wants us to either return, yeah. So we're not actually returning any Boolean here, so that's why it's mad about this. But can we just do this? Okay. And another thing, right? You want to do red, green refactor, right? Or red something. Red, green refactor? Is that what it is? Right. Where you see it failing, you write a test. Or start here. Okay. Then you write a test, see the test failing, and then you write the code to make a pass, green. And the whole point of that is like, you know that the code that you just wrote there is the reason why it's now passing. You know, if you just always do green, then it's like, you're not really sure, well, I might just be writing tests that always pass. You know, I'm not sure if I'm actually testing the code here, you know, in my source file. Like if you do them together, then it's like, okay, well, before I was running my test and they're failing and I made this one change and now they're passing, right? So you're kind of like keeping everything else constant and just tweaking that one thing. So it's like, okay, I guess that one thing actually works, right? And then you can undo it and make sure that it breaks, right? And we could say this 5, right? So if this test passes now, that's actually pretty bad because it means that it's like not really working because we're saying expect the function to return 5. And so it failed, right? That's good. And we're saying it didn't return 2. Expected value should be equal to 5. Okay, because that's what we're saying here. But the received value from our function call, contract foo, was this 2. Okay. 0.08 seconds. Not bad. Okay. So that's pretty good, right? So another kind of tricky thing that I wanted to do was like calling, you know, expecting it to revert. right? So let's say, let's say always reverts, okay? And we're just gonna have a function. Okay. And we don't really need these anymore because, so this, I was looking for a nice way to do this, something like our truffle assertions. And I kind of, the only thing I found was like basically do a try catch in Solidity, right? And I think it's worth looking up just the docs because it's kind of weird, you know? And as close to JavaScript as it is, you know, and there is try catch in JavaScript too, but it's just kind of a very different syntax, right? So this is the answer, right? Select an answer. Nobody cares about what they're saying here, right? Let's just scroll down to right to do a try catch. So you say try, and then the function call, and then the thing that the function is supposed to return, you know, in the success case, and then basically inside of this new scope, you can use that thing value, right? Or you can say catch, and then this error, right? Error keyword, parentheses, and you can either catch a string, which is like the error message that you're reverting with, right? Or you could catch this bytes error, which is like, I don't know, something that's like so bad that it couldn't even error with a message, revert with a message. Okay, so let's try to do this. Where's my, okay, I put this over here. Okay, so try our nothing contract. Okay. And let's say that it should return a uint. Let's call it no. And I forget, I put something in here to say, you know, check that, right? Like it shouldn't get to here. And I just put a revert statement in here. Should not get to here. Okay. Okay, so because we have this message, this is kind of a pointless comment, right? And I'm just gonna say catch, then the error, capital E, right? Okay, and then we can even assert that the message we said, okay. And reverted with wrong message, right? It'd be nice to probably print out the message there too. But... So this is basically the actual message. And the expected one is what? I guess it's whatever we decide to code this to respond, right? So let's just say this function always reverts. Okay. Okay, so it wants us to say memory, string memory. And this one also string memory, okay. Okay, so now it's saying always reverts is not found, right? Nothing contract always reverts is not found. So we didn't create this function yet. Okay. All right, external. Let's just make it internal and see what happens. And I could just say pure returns uint. So by default, it should just assume uint 256. So we can just leave that, right? Oh, I can't copy it like that. Okay, so I'll just say revert. So unreachable code. Okay, but that's just a warning, so it's okay. So always reverts not found. Did I not save this? It's saying warning, unreachable code, but it should still compile. Okay, so it's pointing at this test line 32 in the try. I have nothing contract. Oh, right, because I made it an internal function. Yeah, right. That was the whole point of doing that, was to say that it can't find it when you make it internal in your test. Okay, so let's make it external. Okay, so this one failed. It said reverted with the wrong message, right? So that means that it got down into here, the catch, call it that revert, and now it asserted the thing that it returned, and it said return the wrong message, right? And it's telling you that it received this foo. So if we have it revert with this actual correct one, okay, and then it works, right? So let's maybe comment this out, right? What do you think the test will say when we run this? Okay, here we get this kind of weird transaction has been reverted message. This is basically what happens when the function, well, okay, so because we put our revert in here, right, it didn't revert in our actual source code function here. And so then it gets down inside of this try, and now it gets to this revert. And what was that output again? I mean, it's not super, whoa. Oh, wow. Okay, so this is a debugger. So if we step back, let's go all the way back. And then I can step through each thing. Wow, this is like the actual, like each thing the compiler is doing, the EVM machine, like pushing stuff into registers and, okay, so now it gets into this function. Oh, okay, so when I go to the end, basically it shows us that it reverted right here, right? And that's pretty much what we were expecting. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. Okay, so we don't need these. And let's bring this back here. Okay, so this is just the function that reverts. I'm not sure if we delete this. Interesting. So it's not angry that we said it returns a uint and it doesn't. I guess, you know, anything can also potentially revert and not return that thing. Okay. There was one other thing that I wanted to look at, right? And that was basically like, I think it was in this how to use. No. So what I'm looking for is basically calling it as other users. And I thought I remembered reading about it in here. Get started. Oh, these are just the headings here. Okay, here, this testing by example, I think it's a pretty good page. This might be it. Okay, testing something with message.sender. So they're saying we can use these, this is another thing that Remix does, and then we can use this Remix accounts.solidity. Okay. And then define these variables for different accounts, okay? So these will be address type. You can just put these on the contract itself here. And then in a before all, we can create these test accounts, I guess is a thing imported from this Remix accounts. And then that has a function get account. And you have to say, I guess the index, you know, it's kind of like the truffle array of accounts, right? And you have to say it creates however 10 or 20 accounts for you on startup, and you just say which one you want at any given time, and then it will just give you a little handle to that, and you can assign it to your variable. Okay. And I'm trying to look at calling it as that user. Pretty sure they have the same like overrides thing. Method sign. Okay, so they're saying first version less than 6 low-level calls can be used, but that seems too low-level to me. I don't really feel like doing that. And yeah, this they're even just trying to check, like show you how to test the reverts, I guess. Test using try catch, right? So they're saying this try and then catch error. Try catch 2, right? Now they're, well, I guess in all of them, they're giving this example of the second bytes memory catch. And it's probably a good practice to do both, you know? Okay, here. So we get some users, owner, recipient, and then we say donate. Sorry, this is, wait, this is the contract we want to test. So donate is this function here, take some things. Okay. And so this is using these accounts. It's kind of just calling it as the owner, I'm thinking, right? Because it just says donate here. Doesn't exactly specify who's calling it. Here, let me Google this for you. So, wait. Yeah. And this is like, yeah, it's like remix solidity test, you know, that's like in solidity. How do I simulate multiple users in a remix test? No, it's updated in the transaction. Okay, that. As a different user, yeah, that's what I want to do. Oh, but this is maybe not. Okay, let's just try this from another account. Okay, so this function doesn't take anything, basically, right? Foo. From account 3. Okay, so I'm getting this wrong argument count, right? It expected 0, but it got 1. So, I guess it's not that. And I vaguely remember trying to look this up before, and they just said that like you can't do it, which I feel like that can't be right. But anyway, could be here for a long time, so I give up. But this is at least how you can access these different accounts. We could even, is there a, yeah, edit on GitHub. Yeah, I'm just gonna add. Okay, so at the bottom of here, right, we have our nice little sections. This code block, this thing, and little code block. 4, 5. Okay. I was gonna say, please add an example for this. Just trolling at this point, but I would really like an example of this. Okay, I think it's ready. Okay. And they'll at least say, hey, this is not possible, or this is the example. Maybe you should actually add it. And then I'll do that. Okay. So, okay, so let's just call this with the right number of arguments. And what else do I want to say here? Remix, right? It's a thing. It does work technically most of the time, and you can write tests in it, right? So you really should do that if you're coding in here, and write tests that check the right things, make sure your functions work, and then I think your users will be happier, and people reading your code, working on your code, hopefully you will be happier too. And feel free to, if you guys have questions, unmute or post in the chat, or yeah.